If you have a slice where you're going to the inside like this, going toward your body, put your stick on the inside of it and practice going straight up and down this way. You can practice like grid variations like accent tap. There's like 900 of them on my channel. Just play the whole thing on one hand. If you have a slice where you're going to the outside, move your stick to the outside like this. Just get used to that straight up and down motion. Go slow with this and practice so that you are not pushing into it, but just using this as like a gentle guide going up and down. It should like gently touch it. Just make sure when you're doing this that you're not reinforcing the slice by like getting lazy with this and accidentally having the angle like that or like this, so then you accidentally reinforce the slice. So this has to be straight up and down. Another thing is if you want to, you can just like record yourself with the camera like right above you so you can see like, am I going like this or am I going straight up and down? If you don't have a camera that's above you, a camera in front of you, line up your stick like this and go, am I slicing to the outside or am I slicing to the inside when I'm playing this? And instead you want to be able to have your stick going up and down with a camera or a mirror if you're able to practice in front of that. If you want to get super OCD with it, like I did when I marched, I built like this plexiglass thing, would sit in my pad, and it had plexiglass on the outside and the inside of the sticks so that my sticks had enough room to go straight up and down inside of that plexiglass without hitting the side of it. And the plexiglass was very high because, you know, stick height, it's got to be higher than it so it doesn't go out of it. That's how I worked on my angles and whatnot to make sure that I wasn't playing with like a terrible slice. Before I get to the next tip, I just want to say really quickly that you can find literally thousands of hours of free drumming play-alongs and drumming tips in the link at the top of the description or by going into my home tab of YouTube. Snare lines, they're not very strong, usually speaking. No offense, again, I march snare. It's all about the speed of the rotation. So one of the ways that you can actually practice is take a doorknob, put it in between your middle and ring finger, rotate around it. The doorknob that like snaps back into place. That can help you work on your rotation and your power and whatnot. Some instructors will encourage you to close off all gaps right here. Depending on the size of your hands, that could actually cause a lot of tension down here in the underside of your forearm. So really pay attention to what fits for your anatomy so you don't have it so that your fingers are straight, because then you'll get some tension like up here. And so you don't have it so that your fingers are so squeezed that you're getting tension down here. Just find a nice comfortable medium. Keep the fingers near the stick as much as possible, but not squeezing it so that it cuts off the sound of the stick. You want the stick to be able to vibrate a little bit while you're playing. You should feel it kind of tickle your hand, whether you're playing match or traditional or whatever. Otherwise, you're going to choke off the sound by squeezing too hard. What you want is a curved finger just kind of naturally resting right here. Some people, when they play, will open up the finger a little bit, like when doing a roll. Just a little bit is okay. If you do this with your finger and you straighten it, you're going to feel tension along here. You're going to feel tension along the back side as well. In fact, if you were to take traditional grip and you were to tighten each one of the fingers, you're going to feel a different part of your forearm and the different tendons change depending on what you're doing. They're going to get tight down here. So that's a bad thing. If, however, you are playing traditional grip and your fingers come off the stick just a little bit and it doesn't cause that tension that comes off when you're like coming too far off the stick like this, going like, and you're getting all this like tension in there, then it's fine. If you come off the stick a little bit, you're actually allowing the stick to vibrate. If the stick is vibrating, that means that you're having a nice relaxed grip and you're actually making it so that the energy transfer from here to into the head is going into the head rather than into your hand. I'm going to play this at the same height, but I'm going to change the volume of the stick. How did I do that? It has to do with the speed from going from point A into point B, so the velocity, as well as contact I'm putting on the stick. So if you are choking off the sound, then it's going to make it so that it's quieter than if you're playing with a relaxed technique where the stick can actually vibrate. So if the stick is vibrating while you are playing traditional grip and your middle finger is coming off of it and it's not causing tension, no problems at all. If, however, your middle finger's like straightening up, then that becomes a bit of a problem. I've seen some snare drummers who have said like the way that they get faster is by playing with more of their thumb, and they'll like do like a finger yoga where they will just use this finger and then just use this finger. I don't use my fingers when I'm playing. It's literally just rotation. So it's actually bicep speed that's basically causing the forearm down here to move, which makes it so my wrist moves fast. It's all about that rotation in there. So if you're spending your time working on this, I would imagine you're actually not really going to get much sound and much power out of the playing. This might work for like drum kit. If you play with like an open palm, if you pour water into it, like the hand stays right here. For most rudimental stuff, because you have heavier sticks and because you're trying to get more sound out of it, is you want the water to be able to fall out of your hand when you're playing. And it's all about that rotation, so you can actually get power behind it as opposed to trying to just finger stroke your way into it. Keep in mind, there are many ways to play. So like, for example, when you're doing match grip, you can play with a fulcrum so that it's just the front two fingers that are holding onto it, and you use entirely finger right here. You can do this with French grip. You can do this even with Germanic grip, so where it's flat, or American grip where there's a slight angle to your hand going down like that. Same thing with traditional. You can technically use all forearm rotation. You could technically use just finger. But again, they all have their like different trade-offs. So if you are doing a finger technique on drum kit, it might be fine because you don't need to worry about projecting across the stadium. You have a mic. But if you're playing traditional, you want to have that rotation in there to be able to get that power behind it. Tips for relying on more wrist for traditional /drum on my website. Go to the accent tap section underneath technique exercises, tap relaxer and accent relaxers. The goal here, slowly lower the taps in the accent relaxer. So you're starting off at 12. And then you're slowly lowering it while playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then it finally goes all the way down to 3-inch. And then it slowly raises the taps back up. Tap relaxer is the opposite of this. So it starts at tap height, and then you're slowly moving back up. And you're like, okay, Jared, that's cool. What does that have to do with focusing on wrist motion? If you start everything low and slowly build off of a good solid foundation and slowly lower or slowly raise the accents, without like using a ton of extra arm motion, excessive waste of energy, etc. This is one way you can do that. So this concept can be applied with any of these accent tap exercises. Probably my favorite are the upstroke versions of grid. If you start off everything low and you slowly, as you're practicing it, go to higher heights, that is a way that you can build off the solid foundation. So you're reinforcing the rotation without like killing yourself just like sitting there repping out stuff. So yes, I agree that you could sit there and just like isolate out one hand at a time and make sure you're not moving. But like you were saying, if you're playing through like show music or like an exercise that's like not one of the thousands on my website, like it's hard to practice that, especially when it's got the complex compound motions, etc. If you are a snare drummer, I highly recommend spending at least 50% of your time just working on technique exercises, which are linked up there. There's 91 technique exercises here. Slow these down. Like these 16th note ones go as slow as 20 beats a minute. If you use these play-alongs, it makes it so that you can practice listening in. About 30 to 40% of your time, focus on grid variations. This will make it so that you can play any rudiment in any context with any accent permutation. Specifically focus on like diddle on 1, flam on 1, cheese on 1, drag on 1, and flam 5 on 1. If you can just focus on those for both triplet and 16th note, you'll be golden. And then probably about 10 to 20% of your time, spend it focusing on chop exercises as a fun thing to do at the end of like your practice sessions. Don't know what happened there. There's a ghost. Possessed my hands for a moment. They're not very good at drumming. They need to work it up slower than 56.